Good evening, dear students. I am Samir Velankar. As usual, after 4 lectures, I am here to engage the fifth lecture. As I promised last time, that we have discussed control structures, we discussed for loop, while loop, and if else. From today's class onwards, we will be learning some advanced concepts of Python. One of the basic things that is heavily used in Python is list. List is one of the most important features which is used almost in wide variety of programs in Python. So we will learn what do you mean by list. Okay, and I have a complete notebook over here on list, and I promise you don't have to go anywhere once you get this notebook, which I will mail to the administrating administrators of Ekeeda. Entire note with examples of this list has been given. By the way, for my reference, I have written these topics, that what am I supposed to teach. The first thing you have to understand in Python is list is a data type. Just in the first lecture, just as I said that int is a data type or float is a data type, like that, list is basically a data type in Python. And list is meant for storing collection of values. Don't confuse yourselves with arrays. See, it happens whenever we talk about list, people often think, oh, it's like an array that I learned in other languages. I'll come to this point. But list is simply storing collection of values. Let's say you have 5 values and you want to store it. Then you simply write those 5 values in the square bracket and write those 5 values which you want to store separated by comma, and then assign some name to this. Maybe we assign A as the name. Then this A is a list. And we say A is a list storing these values. But important thing is this square bracket. This square bracket makes it a list. Now, what I was telling is there is another data type called tuple data type. Now, I said list is for storing collection. Like that, tuple is also for storing collection. Both list and tuple are meant for the same purpose. But when you write round bracket and when you write list of values, say these are the values you want, and you assign it to some variable, then this B is called tuple. Okay. Although very small difference you see between tuple and a list, hardly a difference of square bracket and round bracket, but it means a lot actually in Python. So today, we are concentrating on list, and next time, maybe tomorrow, we will concentrate on tuple. So by the way, list is used for storing collection of values. Now, suppose in my program, I have written A is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is list of 5 values. Now, when these values are getting stored in the memory of the computer, then these values, will always have indexes. This value 10 has index 0. This has 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why I said it is so often, people think that, oh, this is like an array. By the way, the indexing is there. Automatic indexing is there. So let's say you write print, just check the statement, print A square bracket 1. Now you watch, this square bracket is used for giving index, or many people call it as subscript. Now what is our intention is we want to print the list but only first element, because I have given the index as 1 and the first element is 20. First element is not this is 0th element. 10 is 0th element. So we have given 1, so it is going to print only 20. So that's the importance of indexes. You can easily give some index and say, I want to print that value which is stored at second index. Now, one more thing you observe. What if you want to print the entire list? List is storing 5 values, correct? And you want to print entire list. The good news is that simply give print A, that's all. Don't give any index, don't give square bracket. Now, Python will understand that you are interested in printing the entire list and all the values will get printed. Okay. Now, there is fun over here. I said that whenever you have a list, there is indexing like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But there is negative indexing also. Just check. This 50 is the last element, isn't it? Last element. It has index -1. This 40 is second last. It has index -2, -3, -4, -5. Look at the indexes. So if you are asked where is 10 stored, where is that value 10 stored in the list? You can say it is stored at index 0 or you can say it is stored at index -5. Even the negative indexing is supported. So suppose if I write a statement like this, print name of the list A and -1, let's say -1, then -1 means I am interested in printing only the last element. So the output of this will be 50. Okay. This is true not only about list, this is true about all data structures. I said we are going to learn list, we are going to learn tuple. This is another collection, set, and dictionary. Of course, it is not applicable only for set, but it is applicable for all. Negative indexing is there. So you are following what I am saying. It is a single dimension only, but there are two ways given by Python just to access the elements. You can simply forget about this negative indexing. If we are never using it, usually we use this positive indexing. It's like, if many people are standing in the queue, then you can say you are the first, you are the second, you are the third. So you are using positive indexing. But it is not wrong in day to day life to say you are the last person in the queue, you are the second last. Queue is still a queue. There is no question of dimension. It is the perspective, how we actually refer an element. Are we referring an element by negative indexing or positive indexing? It means the same. I mean, if somebody says you are the second last person in the queue, that doesn't change its place. Its place will be always the second last, whether you count it from the beginning of the queue or end of the queue. Okay, I hope you have understood that. Now I will go to a blank page here. Just let's scribble something. Okay, this is a blank Jupyter notebook, and suppose I say A is equal to, you recall we were making a list 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Actually, I have full notebook and all the sample programs have been given here. But this notebook will be opened and read for you only when we have finished discussion. Okay, or rather, then it is not necessary for me to even read this, because you might have understood all the points about list already. So this is a list. Let's try something. Type of A. I hope you know this. What I am trying to print is, I don't want to print A. I want to print data type of A. So it is so simple. Just tell print that give me the type of A. So what do you think type of A is? I told you it is a list. So when I run this code, when I actually execute this code, you can see it prints list. But what is this word class? It is saying that A is class list. What does this mean? Here we go. What does that mean? So I'll just erase this page. Coming back to this list, A is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. What is A? You say A is a list. Correct. A is a list. Now I will write proper definition of A. A is hearing this may not even know what is object and class, because many of you might not have learned object oriented programming, OOPM. So object and class, many of you might not have heard. But then important thing is in the memory, how it looks like. A is an object and it refers to, it's an object actually, and this object stores this class. And why the output is like this? Why the output is class list? Just forget it at the moment, because we have full chapter on OOPM coming late in our course. What do you mean by object oriented programming? What do you mean by object? What do you mean by class? And huge amount of programming we will do and on class and object. And at that time you will understand what is that class list. Okay, but it is enough right now to know that surely A is a list, surely, because it has printed that A is a list. Okay, type A. If I print A, look what I am printing. I am printing A. Then Python will print a neat output which prints all values of the list. And that too, you see, square bracket is also printed. So nice, isn't it so? So a great thing about list is you store the values, and if you want to print the list, you simply print it by giving its name. But what if I don't want to print the entire list? I want to print only 30, this value. Now, where is this 30 placed? 0, 1, 2, second location. So I will have to give a square bracket 2. I hope you are understanding. Now, if I print, it is going to print only 30, a single value. Now, if you say A6, why A6? Even A5, let's say A5. Because you know indexing is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 50 is at fourth index, and you're given A5. Then when you run it, you just check. We are asking for trouble if you are printing A5, correct? You just see. If you say print A5, Python won't find fifth element because this 50 is the 4. element number 4 or at index 4. So you will get index error. You just see. And such errors are called trace back errors. Basically, these errors which are shown are called exceptions in Python. And we have got a separate chapter. Some important I would like to tell you now, because this question has been raised by this boy, is that look, this program, that this code that I have written, 2 lines, does not have any grammatical error. I have written this program grammatically correct. Grammatically error maybe that I forgot giving this round bracket. You see, I have given open bracket, I have not given close bracket. This is grammatic error. Now, if I run this, check this. This is grammatic error. I leave the line incomplete. But if I give square bracket, if I give this close bracket, I have given everything correctly. But then runtime error will cause index error. Point is, if you try to cross the bounds of the list, and if you ask for something more which is not there, you will get an error. This error is called exception. That was the question. So as a programmer, be careful. Don't cross the bounds. That we have to be careful. And how we can be careful, I will tell. So that this error never occurs. Now, I was talking about negative indexing, isn't it? What if I give a of -1? Just check this. Now, -1 means this element, 50. So if I run this code, this is going to print 50. What if I give a of -5? Just count. This is -1 and we come back and this 10 is -5, isn't it? So if I print a of -5, this is going to print 10. So even negative indexing works in the list. Okay. What happens many times, you have a list and for some strange reasons, you want to process the list from end to first, from last to first you want to process. That happens 1 in 1,000 times. But maybe you want to process the list from end to first. So negative indexes play a very simple role there. You can easily quickly go to the last value, something like that. Okay. Now, one very important point I am telling you is that values stored in the list, these values stored in the list are changeable. Yeah, you can change. Once you have stored 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, that doesn't mean that these values only will stay in the list. Suppose I say A0 should be A0 plus 1. Just check the statement. What is A0? This is A0, which is 10. So now I am changing the value of A0. A0 should become 11, I am saying. Now if I print the entire list, recall, entire list can be printed simply by saying print A. Now if I run this, it will show that A0 has changed to 11. Originally it was 10. So once you store something in the list, you can of course modify those values. You can go to that element by giving the index and then play with that particular value. And once changed, those values will be depicted. Those values will be shown in the output. Just check. List are ordered. Check the definition. Changeable. Now, why we call list as ordered? Come on, because it has index 0, 1, 2, 3. So there is some sequence, isn't it? And we know which element is after which element. So there is some ordering. And why changeable? I just now proved. Once you store the values in the list, you can change the values. And also the last one is list allows duplicate values. So for instance, suppose I say that this list stores 10, 20, 30, 10, 50. List doesn't have any problem, obviously. Why will it have problem? So now you can store 10 any number of times or particular element any number of times. This is not going to have any kind of trouble, of course. You might be wondering that these things are quite obvious. Now, many of you, I'm sure, might be wondering why, because element 0, element 1, element 2, ordering is there. But there is a data type called set in which there is no ordering. So you can't say this is 0th element, this is 1 element, this is 2nd element. They are dispersed in the set. These comparisons we would like to do. That's why we are touching each and every point over it. I think I have explained why list is ordered and it is mutable. Now, many times you will see this word, mutable. Now, what do you mean by mutable? Mutable means changeable. You can change the values in the list. So you can either write list is changeable or you can write list is mutable. I think I have also discussed indexing, positive and negative indexing of the list. Now, something interesting. I hope I can proceed now. Just imagine we have a list like this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Just check this list. And suppose I tell you to print the list, print the entire list. Then you will say, come on, sir, it's so easy. I will print A. That's it. and this E is going to print the entire list 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, but there is one more way of printing this list, and that method is always has colon at the end and then say print X. Even this is going to print the entire list. So let me run this code. Just check how the output will be this time. Oh good lord, look at all the values have got printed, isn't it? But they have not got printed in the list form. Now what is the meaning of this for loop? Let's see. I mean, when I first saw such a for loop, I got illuminated. Oh, I said, strange. Such a for loop is given, and such an excellent way to iterate. That's the word. Here we go. How that for loop works and what is the meaning of that. We are having a list storing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You know, one way of printing the entire list is just say print A. That's all. And this will print nice output like this. It will even print the square bracket, and the entire list will be printed, decorated, I should say. The another way of printing the list is write a for and introduce a variable. This is just an extra variable, and then use the word in. You know that for loop has the keyword in always. In, and just give the name of the list, colon. This is the name of the list. You just check. Now what happens when this for loop runs first time? This X becomes 10. Look at this. This is the 0th element of the list, and the name of the list has been given here. So X, which is an ordinary variable, becomes 10. It takes the first value, or rather 0th value, and when it goes inside to do the job we are printing X, it will print 10. Further, what happens when this for loop goes back and repeats? It says, okay, X, now you become next value of A. Next value of A is 20. So X is going to become 20. And when the for executes the job, it is printing X, and X is 20. So 20 will get printed. This goes on. So next time X will be 30, 40, 50. Look how readable the for loop is. For says, for every value in the list. Oh my God. When I first time saw this, I said, this is it. This is it. For every value in the list, print the value. That's it. So X is going to be taking 0th value, then first value, then second value, up to last value. You can name this variable any way you like. Most of the authors name this as ELE, element, like that. So for ELE in A is your list, print ELE. You can just check what's happened here is X was every time taking the next value of the list, and we were printing the value. So each value got printed on separate lines. Great, isn't it? This is one way of printing the list. But anybody would wonder, if the list can be printed so easily just by writing print A, that's all, who is the programmer who will put himself or herself in trouble like this of writing a for loop? Valid question. I mean, if you can print the entire list just by writing print A, why will you iterate? Why will you repeat a for loop and then pick every element and print it? Here is the reason now. Just check. The reason is coming up. Suppose you are asked a question. The question is, given a list of numbers, okay, print only those values which are greater than 50. Please try to understand. So suppose if you have a list in your program like this: 10, 55, 20, 30, 68, 7, 77, and 19. Some numbers you have stored, and you don't want to print entire list. Hello, you want to print only those values which are above 50. That means print A is drastically going to fail. Hello, but you have to be selective. So what you do is you say for X in A. I hope you have understood the problem. We want to print only those values whose values are greater than 50. I don't want to print the entire list. So what I did, I said X, you become each value of A one by one. And then inside this for, I will inspect, I will ask a question, X, are you greater than 50? Because X is the value. So here comes the if X is greater than 50 colon, only then I will print X. And what if X is not greater than 50? I will not take any action. So there is no else. Because if X is greater than 50 is false, then I just want to leave that value. I don't want to take any action. This is it. This is how this for loop is useful. Understand, if you are given many values, it's not always that you want to utilize all the values. You may have to select some values and do some process on those selected values. Let's try this code over here. Let's say I have some mixture of values here. Let's say I have 60 and I have 90, and I want to print only those values which are greater than 50. So I will put if over here. If x is the value, if it is greater than 50 colon, only then print that value, print x. I'll just delete this print x. And there is no sense in writing else. Please try to understand. Because if x greater than 50 is false, I just want to leave that value and repeat the for loop. So for will go back and take the next value in x, and x will be again inspected. Is it greater than 50 and so on? So you will see when I run this code, it will print only 60 and 90 from the entire list. So this for loop can be used for traversing the list. You can be selective. You can take each value in this x and you can process it. So I pose a question to you. Okay, here is the question. So my question is, given a list, some list like A, we have been given a list A, then what we want to do is increase value by 1 if the value is greater than 50. Otherwise, decrease value by 1. So as an example, suppose A is, let's say A is 10, 60, 30, 65, and let's say 40. This is our list. Then what should our code do is, it should increase every value which is greater than 50 by 1. So this 60 should become 61, this should become 66. But otherwise, if the value is not greater than 50, then each value should be decreased by 1. So this should become 29 and this should become 39. So this should be our final list. How are you going to do that? What you will do is that you cannot solve this without for loop. If this is your list, then you will have to say x, you become each element of the list one by one. So A will be 10 first time, just check. Next time x will be 50, next time x will be 30, and so on, when this loop is repeating. But then here you will have to write if, you will have to check, is x greater than 50 colon. Okay, if it is greater than 50, you have to take an action. What action? You have to increase the value by 1. But else, recall the grammar of if else, you have to take an action. What action? You have to decrease the value by 1. This if will be the part of for, because for every value of A, this if is going to be checked. Now what I am curious to know over here is, what is the statement that you will write over there? Okay, so this is the problem I have imposed, and this problem, come on, can be solved only by using a for. Plus plus was supported by C, C++, Java. This plus plus minus minus business has been removed. Okay, Saket is saying in the else you will put x is x minus 1. By the way, if you say x is x plus 1 here, and if you say x is x minus 1 here, nothing will be changed in the list. List will remain unchanged, because what you are changing is the variable x. X is a separate variable. X becomes 10, and then you are increasing or decreasing this value by 1, but you are not changing the value in the list. So this statement should have been that play with the element of the list. You will have to change the value. So this statement, should be somehow changing the value inside the list. It can't be x is equal to x plus 1. But then Anmol, if you say a0 is a0 plus 1, I'll write the suggestion of Anmol. Suppose I write a0 is a0 plus 1 as Anmol says. Then each time a0 only will change. A0 will only change. Are you understanding? No, I don't want each time a0 only to change. But I want a particular value which I have picked should be increased by 1 and that value should be stored in the list. So although you thought in the right track that you thought that, okay, now Dhanashri is saying a is equal to x plus 1. Okay, I'll write that suggestion. See, if x is greater than 50, a is equal to x plus 1. Now Dhanashri, this assignment does not work because a is the entire list. You are not giving subscript now. You are not writing a of something is equal to x plus 1. So this assignment does not work. Python says, how can you then say a is equal to x plus 1? Which element of a should become x plus 1? That is not clear. So this is not acceptable. Okay. Print x plus 1. Rishikesh, your answer is partly correct. Because if you print x plus 1, then 61 will get printed for 60. 66 will get printed for 65. But our problem was we want to change the values in the list. See, the values in the list will remain 10, 60, 30. We are not changing these values. The problem was we wanted to change the original values of the list. And that won't happen. Although print x plus 1 will print increased value on the screen, but list will not change. I hope you are understanding. Anybody else? Okay. So what do you do? Rishikesh has agreed with what I am saying. So coming back to our question, I'm not writing the question again. We use some fundamental facts about programming. Okay, I'll come back to chat. What we can do is we can introduce a variable I, which is 0, and then write the for loop for x. Just check for x in a, like this, colon. So you know x will become the first value of the a, that is 0th value. Then x will become second value. Then x will become third value. And here we are asking if x is greater than 50. If x is greater than 50, then we will write ai. Ai should become x plus 1. Now, what do you mean by ai? Ai means a0. And note, before we go back to the for, we will do I is I plus 1. Just check this. A is, I hope this code, as soon as I wrote, you got it. What we are going to do. You see, suppose we have a list like this: 10, 50, 55, 20, 65, and 30. Just say this is 30. Okay. Now we have started I with 0 here. Check, we have started I with 0. Now when the for starts, x will be equal to 10. This is x. X is going to be 10. And then we are inspecting, is that 10 greater than 50? It is false. So the control will land in else. This line will run, which I am underlining. And this line is a0. Come on, I is 0 now. So a0 should become x minus 1. So a0 will change. We are entering the list a0 and we are changing the value and storing the changed value. And now before we go back to the for, we are doing I is I plus 1. So I is no more 0. I becomes 1. What happens during next repetition of the for? X will become equal to next value of a. So x is now going to be 55. If x is 55, we are asking, is x greater than 50? Yes, it is. Then this line will run. And this is a1. Come on, I is 1 now. a1 is equal to x plus 1. X plus 1 means 59. So, 56. So this value will become 56. And this goes on. So using an index and then incrementing it every time in the for loop will be beneficial. Saket. Such a grammar won't be meaningful. What you have written here is, what you have written, I'll just reproduce it. Ax is equal to x plus 1. Now ax is equal to x plus 1 can't be thought of. Because you see, x is going to be 10 first time. Value in the list. So you are then saying a10 should become equal to something. Because x is a value in the list. And then a10 is not even possible because that element is not there. But I hope you have understood this code where we are using an index. We are using a variable and then we are increasing that variable so that we can touch the elements of the list and store new values over there. Let me try this first of all. You know the problem. Each value greater than 50 has to be increased by 1, and value which is less than or equal to 50 should be decreased by 1. So what I have done in the code is I have introduced a variable I is 0, and if x is greater than 50, if x is greater than 50, then I will say ai should become x plus 1, but else colon, I'll say ai should become x minus 1. Okay, but most importantly, I will say I is I plus 1 here, and this is in the for loop. Now after the for loop, I will simply print a. Let us try to print the entire list. And now if I print this entire list, I will get 9, 61, 29, 91, and 49. That was my intention, isn't it? That's what I was explaining. Why we take I? If we don't take I, how are you going to go to each element of the list? I want A0 to become equal to something. I want A1 to become equal to something. I want A2 to become equal to something. So I will take us to that value, isn't it? Obviously, when this loop starts first time, x is surely 10. Value is 10. And that is at index 0. So I have started I with 0. Perfectly, I will get A0 equal to x minus 1. It's like acting an index of the array, of the list. I'm sorry. Okay. But importantly, you can use for loop for the list. That was the discussion, isn't it? Forget about the logic right now. Okay. And why we have used something. But you agree that this cannot be done without for loop. Definitely. Okay. Now coming back to few more facts about list. Let's say I am given a question. You will find this question very, very difficult. You see this? Create a list which stores all numbers from 1 to 100. What will you do? As a programmer, will you write a is equal to 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma so on, and you will keep writing up to 100? Nonsense. How can you write? How can you afford writing these 100 values? But you know all the values are in sequence. 1 to 100 you want to store. But this is big task. You just say 1 to 1000 if somebody says, create a list. Oh my God, you will not write it itself. But then there is a easier approach to do this. You just can't afford writing this. I hope you are understanding. If you want a list containing all numbers from 1 to 100, let's say 1 to 100, okay, then you recall you have something called range. Yeah, we used it. We used it in the earlier class when we were working with for loop. But forget about for loop. What does range mean? If I say 1, 101, let's say 1, 101, range is given. That means I will get all numbers from 1 to 100. I will not get 101. Remember? It's always one value less than the last value. So what has been given, range 1, 101 is definitely going to give me all numbers from 1 to 100. And now I give one function called list. List is a function, and just put a bracket. And inside the list function, inside this list function, I will give range 1, 101. Now this function list creates a list, creates a new list. Look, one way of creating the list is write name of the list, then write square bracket, then write the values. Of course, this also creates the list. The another way to create the list is use a function called list. List creates the list and simply give which values you want in the list. And you're given the values, you're given 1 to 100. And now you assign this to A. It creates a new list. This is called constructor. Constructor. Very big word. Oh, this is related to object-oriented programming. These words, like constructor, destructor, and all that are related to OOPM. So don't worry. But you can remember list is a function. It just takes the numbers and it creates the list. I hope you found this interesting. Although the previous question would have not been so convincing. This one, the earlier one. But just check. If I say B is equal to, B is my list, and I say list, and then I say range 1 comma 101, this is going to definitely create a list of 1 to 100. Okay. And now suppose I print B. Get ready to see a very big list now. Print B. And this is going to contain all values. Look at this square bracket. It is a list. All values from 1 to 100, obviously in continuous sequence. Okay. So what if I change the problem? I have a problem like this. Create a list. Create a list which stores all numbers from 1 to 100, alternately. I'm not able to pose the question properly, but I want 1, 3, 5, 7 up to 99. Okay. I want this list to be created. Between 1 to 100, I should take the values. So you know this also. If you give range 1 comma 101 comma 2, now this is the increment. You recall this. So first value taken in the range will be 1. Next value will be 3 because you are incrementing the value by 2. Next value will be 5 and so on, and it will go up to 99. It won't take 101, because this range ends at 100. You have given the last value as 101 and now you create the list. So what this list is, this is a constructor. This is a function which takes the values and creates a new list. You can say A becomes this list. Done. This is going to store alternate values between 1 to 100. Let's go back and prove this. So if I say B is 101 comma 2 and print B, a list of all numbers with alternate values between 1 to 100. I hope you got this. So two ways to create a list. You either write square bracket yourselves and then give the values. Otherwise, you can use list constructor. And inside that list constructor, do some way give some values. You won't be surprised if I say that this is the only way to create the list using list constructor. Don't come to conclusion. It doesn't mean that whenever you give list, list, in the bracket there should be range and only range. There is no such rule. There are many ways to create the list using list constructor. Important thing is, inside the list constructor, you should give values. Some way or the other, you should give values so that it creates the list. Done. Very good. So coming back to the page, which I wanted to discuss. Okay. See, we now know how to print the values using for loop. And we know how to increment each value by using a for loop. Now let's come to something called, there is a len method of the list. Just imagine I am having a list C, which has values, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And I just want to know out of curiosity, what is the length of this list? So if I say len bracket C, so I am asking what is the length of this list? What do you think will be the length if I print this? If I print the length will be 5. Because exactly there are 5 values stored in the list. Just check this. If I run this, this is going to print 5. Now note, just a word of caution to everyone. Just be careful while using len function. Just check this. Suppose I have a list again having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Indexing is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last value is at 4th index. Now what happens when I try to find len A? This len A is going to be 5. Correct? There are 5 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values are there. Isn't it so? So len actually gives exact number of values. It is not working on indexing now. So if you print this, len A, it's going to print 5. 5 values are there in the list. But you should be careful that if length of the list is 5, then the indexing is from 0 to 4. Are you understanding? If length is 5, then indexing is from 0 to 4. Come on, indexing starts with 0. So it will not end at 5, it will end at 4. Just remember this. So len is a function, we say. It takes the list and returns the length of the list. Len method. Now comes the very interesting point, slicing. Just see, I am now discussing what do you mean by slicing. You like this? Definitely. Suppose if I have a list like this, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So you know indexing is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So somebody tells us to print only 30, 40 and 50. Just check this. Only these three values we want to print. We don't want to print entire list. That means we want to print element number 2, element number 3, element number 4. Then you can say print name of the list, and then you can give a slice here. The slice typically contains begin index from where you want to start printing, then a colon character, and the end index where you want to stop. I hope you are not surprised to see 5 here. Yeah, I'm sure no one is surprised, because whatever you give at the end here is always taken one less than this. So although you have written 2:5, it will be taken 4. So which elements of this list will be printed? It will be second, third and fourth only will be printed. This is known as slicing. Of course, because we have got a list and we have sliced it. We have sliced it and we have taken only a part of the list and we have displayed. So a typical grammar of slice is start index and end index. And whatever you give at the end, one less than that is taken. And in the middle of start and end, there is a colon character. So let's try this. Well, let's say I am having a list D, which is, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay. And suppose I give print D 2:5. Just be careful. 2 is, now this 10 is 0th element, 20 is first, 30 is second. So it will start printing from 30, and then 30 is second, 40 is third, and 50 is fourth. Just check, 50 is the fourth element. So if I run this, it's going to print 30, 40, 50. And nice thing is, it has given the output in the list form. That means, please try to understand why it is known as slicing. Please try to understand. If you have an apple, okay, and you slice it, so you get two different halves of the apple, but every half is still an apple. So basically, when you slice off a list, you get a smaller list. Okay, you want me to prove this? Okay, let's see. Instead of printing, you know what I will do? I'll say E is equal to D. D is our existing list. Watch, and then I'll give 2:5. What am I doing? I am saying take only second, third, and fourth elements from the D and store it in E. I don't want to print it now. Store it in E. You know what E will be? E will be a list. Oh, come on. Yes, E will be a list. Let me try to print, type E, data type of E, and it is a list. So slicing a list gives a new list. Many people can call this a sub list. Okay. So it's not that always when you slice a list, you will print it. You may store that slice in a separate list, a smaller list, and then use that smaller list for some other purpose. I hope you are understanding. By the way, we will stick to print D 2:5. This is going to print only second, third, and fourth values. Okay. But there are some alternate ways also of doing this. Now watch this. Assuming you understood this. What if I am given this problem? Print second element of the list. So I don't want to print 0 and first element. Print second element of the list till the end of the list. Till the end. All the values should be printed. From second, I want to print all the values. So one way of doing this is saying print A, I want to start from 2, isn't it? Then colon. And what is the last index? Watch here. Last index is 7. So I will give 8. Be careful about the last index. So which values will be printed? Those values which are placed at second index up to seventh index. But anyway, I knew that I want to print from second index till the end, isn't it? Till the end. So one way of doing this and reducing our efforts is you don't give this second index at all. But still you have to give colon. That's in the grammar. So you give 2 colon, that's it. So what Python does seriously, it takes second index, that is, it will take this 20, or sorry, 30. It will start printing this, and then it will say till which point I have to print. Oh, you are not given till which point I have to print. So it will understand, or it will assume that I have to print till the end. Are you understanding? So what happens if this end index is not given? It will print till the end of the list. Let's try this first of all, before going ahead. Just check this. If I give 2 colon, that's it, 2 colon. I have not given end index. Then from second index onward, it will print up to the end. Okay. Now suppose somebody imposes a problem like this. Just check. The problem is, give me some time. We are having a list like this. A is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Okay. You know indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And somebody tells print a slice of this array, of this list, I'm so sorry, of this list from the 0th place. So 10 should be printed. Then first element and second, that's it. I want to print only these 3 values. I don't want to print the entire list. So one way of doing this is using the slice, say A 0 colon 3. Be careful again, 0 colon 3. So it will start printing the 0th element and end at second element. One way of doing this is this. Other way of doing it is, if you say print A colon 3, now you watch what you have done. In the slice, you are not given the start index. If you don't give the start index, then Python will assume you have to start printing from the beginning of the list. But you're given the end index. Yes, you're given the end index. So it will stop at second index, as the end index is 3. Let's go back and check this. Just check. If I give for this list, if I give colon, and 3. So it's going to print 0th element, first element, second element, because end index is 3. And that's it, 10, 20, 30. This was 0th, then first, and then second. So what if start index is not given in the slice? It will always start from the beginning. What if end index is not given? Then it will go up to the end. It will assume that you have to go up to the end. Obviously, what if both are not given? But before we see that, both are not given. Na? Before we see that, let's see some more things about slicing. So this is the topic going on right now. Slicing. You might be wondering, so many topics are still pending, and we are already at 7, close to 7:15. Don't worry. These things are pretty ordinary. Okay. In fact, everything is ordinary. You might be feeling. Yeah, definitely. I think so. But then, now I will impose a new problem. This is related to slicing. Given a list, let's say A is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You know the indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And somebody poses a problem that create a new list, or rather print, instead of creating a new list, print elements of the list. Print elements of the list starting from 0 index, starting from index 0, alternately. That means I want to print 0th element, then second, then fourth, then 6th. See, I am just jumping. I'm jumping to the alternate element, and of course, after 6, I don't have 8th element. So 70 will be the last value printed. How do I do this? Using slicing. Okay, just check. What I can say is print A. A is the list. Okay, start from 0 colon. Okay, go up to the end. Yeah, because I want to go up to the last, and last index is 7, so I will give 8 and then colon 2. Oh, this is so readable now for all of you. You know that this is start. You know that this is end. So end is 8, so it will be 7, and this is increment. Hello, this is increment. So what it will do is it will print 0th element, but then after that it will not print first element. It will print second, then fourth, then sixth, and then it says, okay, I don't have any more elements after this. This is ultimate way of slicing. Most of the times you don't need increment. Most of the times, some people say, give me these values which are there back to back in the list. So you won't give the increment. But many times you have to be choosy and you want to go alternate values, or maybe every fourth value you want, every fourth value, then you can give increment as 4 here. Before we discuss any more, let's try this. See, what I am doing is I will give 0 colon 8. Correct or not? Because these indexes are from 0 to 7, and then colon 2. And I am now printing it. Now if I try this, oh, something went wrong. Oh, bracket, I missed bracket. Grammatical error. Okay. Now you can see it is printing 10, 30, 50, 70. How I have sliced it. Okay. So the third part of the slicing is the increment that you can give. Interesting, isn't it? Now here comes the big point about slicing. We have given start index as 0 and end index as 8. But you tell me we wanted alternate values from the entire, check my word, entire list I wanted. It's not that I wanted to start from some another index, like I wanted to start from third index and I wanted to end at fifth index. Nothing like it. I wanted to play with the entire list. And if I don't give the begin index, and if I don't give the begin index, then it is assumed to be 0, isn't it? And obviously I wanted to start the process from 0. So why should I give 0? I will not give it. And if I don't give end index, nothing I give here, then you know that the process goes till the end of the list. So why will I give this? And then after this second colon, I will give 2, because that's the increment I want. So I can drastically improve this by saying I don't care about these first indexes. I'll give colon. Just see, before colon I have not given 0, but it will be assumed 0. And after colon I have not given anything, so it will be assumed till the end of the list. And I have to give colon again because I want to give 2. Check the slicing very well. Why 2 colons? Why 2 colons? Because here you would have typed 0. In between the 2 colons, you would have typed 8. And after the second colon, you would type 2, isn't it? So 2 colons have to be there. Please try to understand. And then 2 will be there. So if I run this is going to give me the same result. I'll just wait for 30 seconds for your answer after posing the question. The question is, let's say A is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. This is the list given. Or sorry. Given a list having all values from 1 to 100, suppose. So I want a list which stores all values from 1 to 100. Okay, I'll just erase this list. Then I want to print all values starting from index 0. Okay, starting from index 0, ending at end of the list. So I want to repeat the process till the end of the list with increment of 5. So first challenge is, how will you create this list having 1 to 100 values? You won't be writing 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 100. That's ridiculous. So first you have to think of how will you create this list. But you know now that you can say A is equal to list. You can use this function and use range 1 comma 101. This is very well going to create a list of all the 100 values. So this A will be literally a list containing 1, 2, 3 up to 100, correct? And then you have been asked that you start from 0 and go up to the end, but print fifth value every time. So 1 should be printed, then 6 should be printed, because you want to jump by 5 places. Okay, then 11 should be printed. So how will you do this? You will say print A, no index at the beginning. So 0 is assumed, no index at the end. So here end assumed is the end of the list. Here begin assumed is beginning of the list, and then you can say 5. This E is going to print fifth value every time, and we have done the slicing. This is very well understood by everyone. So let's go to blank slate, our code here, and let's say I say E is equal to list range 1 comma 101. So this is a very big list, and suppose I say print E colon 5. Okay, so this is going to print every fifth element of the list. Okay, now my question, definitely this is a question for everyone. Just think over it. What if I have a list like this? F is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, and I say print F colon. Oh, look at that. I mean, look at the statement. And my question is, what will be the output due to this print? I am waiting on the chat. What will it print? I am again using slicing. Come on, this is slicing. In answering, what will be the output due to this? Correct, Anmol. Entire list will be printed. You're absolutely right. So answer we have got. What Anmol is saying is, look, you are not given any begin index. So by default, begin index assumed is 0. Yeah, I will come back to chat. And you are not given end index. The end index not given means till the end of the list. And you are not given increment also. Then by default, increment assumed is 1. So this list will be printed from 0 index, and increment is 1. So it will go to 20, 30 and till the end. So this will print the entire list. Please try to understand. But hello, you wanted to print entire list. Just give printf. When you give the name of the list with print, it obviously prints the entire list. But the things are to be understood from the perspective of the slicing also. And somebody puts a googly, and says, what will be the output of this? If you don't know slicing properly, you would say this, I don't know, this might be an error. You're not giving begin index, end index, and you're given 2 colon. This is going to print the entire list. Good. Of course, this is going to print the entire list. Then why don't you give simply the name of the list? That's all. So we were discussing about slicing. This one. Now you watch. There are two functions, insert and append. These are called methods. Functions are many times called methods in Python and Java. Insert and append, as the name suggests, insert will help us to insert a new value. Instead of talking anything about this, let's work on F. F is having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And suppose I say F dot insert. Just check how to use insert. F dot insert. And if I say 2, 100, let's say, then this means at the second index, insert a new value 100. So what is the second index? This place. Oh, I'm so sorry. This place is second index. This is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So at this second place, 100 will be inserted. And what about 30? 30 will be pushed back. So the new values in the F will be 10, 20, 100, 30, 40, 50. So simple way to use insert is give the place and give the value. But note how to use insert. You call insert on the list by using dot operator. So I read such statements as insert in the F list. Dot is read by me as insert in the F list at position 2 value 100. Okay. So after inserting, if I print F, let's say, then it will give us that 100 placed at second position, and you see how 30 has gracefully made place for 100. 30 has pushed back. Like that, you can insert a value at any place. I mean, a new value at some place. So insert is a very simple function. But there is another function called append. Just check. There is another function called append. Now, what append means is that suppose I'll just overwrite the same example, okay, or else let's take another code. Suppose I have g is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, okay, and somebody tells us add 60 to this list. Check the words, add 60 to this list, put 60 in this list. That's it. That means you can put 60 at the end of the list. Come on, you don't want to disturb any value in between, isn't it? When you insert a value at the end of the list, we are appending a list. We are appending a list. Just say g dot append 60. That's all. Look at the difference between insert and append. Although both of them basically put a new value. What insert does, puts a new value. What append does, puts a new value. But insert can be used for putting a new value at some place, whereas append will always add a new value at the end. So what if after this I print g? This is going to print 10 to 60. You see, 60 has got appended at the end. Let's say I say g dot append 60, g dot append 70. So two appends I have done. So first 60 will get inserted and then 70 at the end. If I run this is the result. So quite easy, isn't it? Insertion and appending. We are going to use this append heavily in machine learning programming and in Python programming also. Insert is not much used by me. I don't like disturbing someone. Most of the times I use append whenever I want to add something in the list. And we will be making heavy use of this in programming. Okay, there is another thing called extend. Now, instead of talking anything, let's say I have got one list G, or let's say GH. H is the list, and this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, and imagine somebody says that in this list, you append, check my words, insert nahi hai, you append 60, 70, 80, 90. You append 4 values. So one way of doing this is writing h dot append 60. Then again h dot append 70. Then again h dot append. Oh, good lord. I will have to write it 4 times. Hello. Don't be under an impression. Why don't we write 60, 70, 80, 9. It is not so magical. Append can append only one value at a time. So if you are asked to append 60, 70, 80, 90, you will have to write append 4 times. Then the better method is extend. What you do is, you want to insert 4 values and you know the values also, 60, 70, 80, 90. Then you make a new list. Let's say Z. And you say, these are the new values I want to put. 60, 70, 80, 90. These are the new values. I want to put it in H list. Now I write H dot extend. So who is getting extended? Yes, H is getting extended. And what is to be put in that H? Z has to be put in that H. So whatever is in Z will go at the end of H. Check the way in which extend has been used. And if I print H now, then H was earlier 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And now it will contain all values of itself, and all values of Z have been appended. Not always you get a situation where you want to append only one value in the list. You have got lot of values to append. Then what you do, those lot of values, you store it in the list. And then you say one list dot extend other list. So this other list will be appended at the end of H. So all values of Z were appended at the end of H. So I have told 3 methods to add something in the list. One method is insert. Insert at proper position. Second is append. Insert always at the end. Third is extend. Extend and append are same because extend also adds values at the end, but extend can be used for adding more values at a time. I hope you got this. Quite easy, isn't it? Now let's continue. There is a remove method. I told lists are mutable. You can change them. So suppose if you have something like H is I will go to the new tab now. Suppose I have a list called J, and J is 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. And for some reasons, I don't want this 30. I don't want this 30. I want to remove it. So you use remove function on J. You say J dot remove. J dot remove. So element will be removed from J, and you simply give 30, the value which you want to remove. And now if you say print J, print the list, then J will be printed without 30. Please try to understand this. You see 30 has been removed. It's so easy to remove a value from the list. Just give list dot remove, the name of the list dot remove, and the value. Of course, your question would be, what if somebody gives remove 60 here, but 60 is not there in the list, isn't it? And you still ask remove to remove 60. If you try to do so, giving a wrong value to remove, it will produce an error, value error. So you have to be careful. While removing a value from the list, give legal values which are there in the list. Otherwise, it will produce an error. Okay. So that's remove. Remove some value. And the nice part, when you remove a value, see how 30 got removed, and all these later elements, took over one place ahead. So this looks like a nice list. Now you would say, sir, is there any other way to remove the value? When I ask you a question, why? You'll say, because there were two ways to insert and append. So is there any other way to remove the value? Yes. One more way to remove the value is, there is a function called pop. P-O-P, pop. Suppose I have a list like K, and K is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. And I want to remove the last value. I know that. Somehow I know the last value I want to remove. Okay. Then one way of doing this is, I can write K dot remove 50, because 50 is placed at the last position. Okay. But the another way of doing this is, write K dot pop and just check. When I write the pop function, I don't give the value. Which value I want to remove? Pop by default goes to the end of the list, removes that value. Please don't wonder why we need this. I mean, no, don't think of application. But there is something called stack in data structures. And stack has a concept of pushing and popping values always at the end. And these words have come from that particular domain. So what you are doing is, you are deleting the value at the end. So that's why that pop function. Now suppose if I say simply print K, print the list. So this list is going to be printed in such a way that last element is missing. So what if I write K dot pop 2 times? So first pop is going to remove 50. Now 50 is not there, and second pop is going to remove 40. So the new list is going to be 10, 20, 30. Let's prove it by running this tab. Yeah, 10, 20, 30. So there are two ways to remove. Either you can remove by value, some particular value like 30. So 30 might be there anywhere in the list, that value will be removed. Or you can always remove the last value. Now there is one method, I'll come to del method later on, del keyword. But there is one method called clear. What will it do? Let's say I have this K list. Okay. And okay, let's take another list. Let's say I have M is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. This is the list, and I print M just for fun. So this is going to print the entire list. Okay. But for some reason, I want to delete all the values of this list, and I want to make the list empty. The list will be still there, but it will be empty. So one way of doing it is call pop 5 times. If you call pop 5 times, m dot pop, m dot pop, m dot pop 5 times, then first 50 will be removed, then 40, then 10. 5 times if you call, all the values will be removed, correct? Otherwise, you can call a function m dot clear, m dot clear. If you say clear the m is your list, then all values will be removed. Now if I say print m, check that first call to print m will print all the values, but second call to print m will print empty list. Let's prove it. Oh yes, the list has become empty, you see. So clear is a very comfortable method to clear the list. But remember, list is still there. So after this print m, if I say m dot append, let's say 100, okay, and m dot append, let's say 200, and then print m again, print m. Now first output will be the entire list, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Second output will be cleared list, empty list. But the third output will be 100, 200, because we have appended 2 new values in the empty list. Confirm it. So clear will only clear the list. It will not delete the list. What am I talking about? Let's see. Suppose I use a keyword called del. Del is a keyword. No, del is not a function. Del is a keyword. And if I say del m is the list, then what it does, it deletes this list from the memory itself. That means from now onwards, there does not exist any list called m. There does not exist such a name at all. And suppose if you del m and if you try to print m thinking that m is still there, this is going to give an error, m not found. There is no such list at all now. Let's see. It has printed first, second and third output, and then it has given name error. At print m, you see, after del m, you can't use m at all because name m is no more defined. Name m has been killed. Name m has been destroyed due to del. Del is a nice way, to delete something from the memory. What happens in your program, you declare so many variables. And then at a particular statement, from now onwards, that variable is no more needed. Yes, many times we know that. We are writing a 1,000-line program and you declared some variable at 50th line, and then at 200th line you realize from now onwards that variable is no more required, so better delete it. Why are you keeping it in the memory and eating the memory, isn't it? That's the nice way given by Python to take the responsibility in your hand and delete the variables which are no more needed. So that's the del keyword. There is a big difference between del and clear. Clear will only empty the list and del will literally delete the list. Okay. So what am I going to do after this lecture ends, is that I am going to give this Python notebook. Now this, you can see, I am just scrolling down. This says, what is the meaning of len? You just check. What is the meaning of this len? And it returns the length of the list. Or this has elaborate discussion done in this notebook about the list constructor. I think it has gone above. Yeah, see this list constructor. What is this list constructor? I have discussed here, and I have written the notes about it and the examples. And I have spoken about negative indexing. You can see this. Also, in detail, slicing has been discussed and the examples. Then append, what append does. Each function has been described properly. Extend, okay, remove, everything has been explained here. Okay. What will you do on getting this notebook? I hope you understand. What you will do is, you will open Jupyter Notebook, and in the Jupyter Notebook, you will open this notebook and then go to a tab and you have liberty of running it. Or you can go to a particular program and run it at least once and see what happens. And simultaneously, you can read the notes which are written above and below the code. So I hope you will have nice time with Jupyter Notebook and you will sincerely go through these notebooks. Okay, time to say good night to you. Bye everyone.